want you to picture the end of your commute today. Or, just a quick trip to the grocery store. You pull into the spot, turn off the ignition, and you get out. It is like the most forgettable part of driving. You've probably done it 10,000 times. You grab the handle, you push the door, you step out onto the pavement.
It's the period at the end of the sentence. You don't even think about it.
Exactly. It's pure muscle memory. But here's where it gets interesting and, honestly, a little unsettling. We've got a stack of safety protocols and research here that suggests this tiny, mindless moment, this climbing out phase, is actually a tactical nightmare.
Oh, it really is.
It's one of the most dangerous transition points in your entire day.
And it makes sense if you break it down, right? You're moving from a steel cage, your car, which is designed to protect you, into this...
It's a total chaos, basically.
Exactly. A chaotic environment full of moving metal, distracted pedestrians, and asphalt. And you're usually doing it while checking your phone or
looking for your keys.
Right.
We spend hours learning how to parallel park or merge, but nobody teaches us how to exit the machine.
Which is so strange because if you get that transition wrong, the consequences are immediate. And we're not just talking about a dinged door, we're talking severe injuries to cyclists, getting hit by traffic, or even carjackings.
So today we are doing a deep dive into the art of the exit. We're going to look at a protocol called climbing out. It turns out there's a right way and a very, very wrong way to leave a vehicle.
We're going to cover a specific technique that totally rewires your body mechanics to prevent accidents, plus a mental checklist that, let's be honest, most of us fail every single day.
Oh, I definitely fail at least half of this list.
No.
But let's start with the big one. The physical act of opening the door. There's a term for the disaster scenario here, dooring. It sounds kind of funny, but the reality is pretty grim.
Dooring is such a deceptive term because it sounds passive. But in, urban planning and cycling safety data, it's a major cause of severe injury. Here's the scenario. You park your car on a street. There's a bike lane running between you and the sidewalk, or maybe just traffic passing close by. You pull the handle and swing the door open.
And a cyclist is coming up right behind you.
Right. And they're moving at maybe 15, 20 miles per hour. Suddenly, a steel barrier appears in their path. Instantly. They have zero reaction time. They either hit the door, which is like hitting a brick wall, or they instinctively swerve left.
Into moving traffic, it's a lose-lose. And the driver never even saw them.
Because they didn't look, or more specifically, the way they opened the door made it anatomically difficult to look.
Okay, let's dig into that, because I think most people would say, well, I have mirrors, I glance in the mirror. But the research suggests mirrors just aren't enough.
Well, mirrors have blind spots, and they require a conscious decision to look. You have to think, I should check the mirror, then you look, then you open. If you're distracted, tired, or in a rush, you just skip the check. You just pull the handle.
So how do we fix a habit that's so ingrained?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been opening car doors the same way since I was like 5 years old.
You have to change the biomechanics. You have to make it impossible to open the door without looking. And this brings us to the Dutch reach.
I love that name. It sounds like a spy thriller move, the Dutch reach. But it's actually standard procedure in the Netherlands, right?
Oh, yeah. In the Netherlands, this is just called opening the door. It's taught in driver's ed. It's part of the culture because cycling is so massive there. If they open doors like we do, I mean, the injury rate would be astronomical.
So walk me through it. I'm sitting in the driver's seat, parked on the right side of the road.
Yeah.
Normal habit is I use my left hand, the hand closest to the door, to pull the latch.
Correct. And when you use your left hand, think about your shoulders. They stay square to the steering wheel. You can push the door open without ever turning your head. Your eyes naturally just look at the door frame, not the road behind you.
Okay, I'm visualizing that. I'm basically facing forward while the door swings out into danger.
Exactly. Now, the Dutch reach changes one variable. You use your far hand.
So my right hand.
Your right hand, you reach across your chest to grab the door handle. Try to mime that motion right now. What happens to your upper body?
I have to twist. I can't reach the handle without turning my shoulders to the left.
And because your shoulders turn, your neck turns. And because your neck turns, your eyes are now pointing. Where?
Out the window. Backwards.
Boom. You are looking directly into the blind spot. You aren't relying on a mirror. You are physically facing the oncoming traffic or cyclists.
That is deceptively simple. It forces the safety check just by the nature of the movement. You don't have to remember to look. The reach makes you look.
It creates a physical barrier to the bad habit. You literally cannot open the door without checking the road. It's what they call a forcing function in design.
But I have to be the skeptic for a second. It feels awkward. I tried this earlier today after reading the notes, and I felt like I was hugging myself to get out of the car. It felt clumsy.
It does feel clumsy at first. Of course it does. You're fighting decades of muscle memory. It feels slow. But that slowness is actually a feature, not a bug. It pauses that automatic fling the door open reaction
So the clumsiness is actually part of the safety.
until it becomes a habit. After a week, you don't even notice it. But that initial pause, that's what saves the cyclist's life.
It's amazing that we haven't adopted this universally. It costs $0. It requires no technology. It's just use the other hand.
It's purely a software update for your brain, and the impact is huge. We see campaigns for it popping up in cities with bike shares, but it really should be the default for everyone.
Okay, so we've managed to get the door unlatched without taking out a cyclist. We're safe to exit.
Not yet. The Dutch Reach handles that immediate external threat. But the research we're looking at outlines a climbing out checklist that starts before you even touch the handle. It's all about securing the environment inside the car first.
This list surprised me. It felt a bit like, okay, clean your room. But when you read the reasoning, it's actually about cognitive load and safety. The first one is sun protection,
Right.
which just sounds like car care advice. Put up a sunshade. Why is this a safety protocol?
Well, it operates on two levels. First, yes, it protects the dashboard. But think about the driver. If you park in the blazing sun for an hour without a shield, you come back to an oven. The steering wheel is burning, the seat is hot, the air is stifling.
Oh, I know that feeling. You just want to get moving immediately to get the AC blasting.
Exactly. It induces a state of physical stress and rushing. You're far more likely to make a driving error or skip your safety checks when you're physically miserable and rushing to cool down. Putting up the shield is an investment in your future state of mind.
That is a fascinating take. You're prepping the cockpit for the next mission.
And it forces you to slow down the exit. You can't just jump out. You have to take 10 seconds to secure the vehicle. It breaks that frantic pace of the day.
Speaking of securing the vehicle, let's talk about loose items. The protocol is very specific. Secure water bottles, papers, bags before opening the door.
This one is just physics and Murphy's Law. When you open a car door, you're breaking the seal. If you have around a water bottle on the floor mat or a stack of mail in the passenger seat, the slight tilt of the car or a gust of wind can send things flying.
I've definitely had a water bottle roll out and go right under the car parked next to me. It's so embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, but in a city, it's dangerous. A bottle rolling into a bike lane is a hazard. Papers flying across a windshield can startle another driver. But there's also the internal hazard. If you leave loose items rolling around, they can end up under your brake pedal the next time you drive.
So the rule is clear the decks.
Clear the decks. If it's loose, bag it or bin it. Don't leave projectiles waiting for the door to open.
This ties right into the next point, which is theft prevention. But the phrasing here is interesting. It doesn't just say hide your valuables. It talks about removing temptation.
Yeah, this is a concept called target hardening. Thieves are generally opportunistic. They're walking through a parking lot, scanning interiors. If they see a gym bag, a charging cable, even just a jacket on the back seat, they don't know if there's a laptop under that jacket. They just see a potential reward.
So a messy car is a target.
A messy car is a mystery box. A thief might break a window just to check. The goal of the climbing out checklist is to leave the cabin visually sterile. If they look in and just see upholstery and floor mats, they keep walking.
So we're putting things in the trunk, not just throwing a coat over them.
Trunk is best. And, do it before you arrive at your final spot if you can so no one sees you stashing it. But generally, yes, a clean cabin signals a secure driver.
Okay, so the inside is locked down. No loose bottles, no sun damage, no bait for thieves. Now we need to step out. And this brings us to situational awareness. The research calls the area around your car a transition zone.
This is a term you hear in personal security. A transition zone is anywhere you're switching focus. You're hunting for your parking ticket, grabbing your latte, checking your texts. You're distracted.
And you're entering a public space.
Right. And predators, whether we're talking about muggers or just aggressive panhandlers, they look for distracted people in transition zones. The climbing out protocol says, scan the perimeter before you unlock the door.
I feel like people will hear this and think, come on, just go into the pharmacy. Do I really need to be scanning for threats?
It doesn't have to be paranoia. It's just awareness. Look at the people standing nearby. Is someone loitering by the driver's side door of the car next to you? Is there a van parked suspiciously close to your driver's side?
And if the answer is yes,
then don't get out. Wait. Or drive to a different spot. The car is a lockable fortress. The sidewalk is not. The moment you open that door, you give up your advantage. So the check happens while the lock is still engaged.
That is a really important distinction. The decision to exit happens inside.
Correct. And it's not just people. The checklist mentions terrain, physical obstacles.
Yeah, the ankle breakers.
We park, we look at the store we're going to, and we step out without looking at the ground. Potholes, ice patches, high curbs.
I stepped into a slush puddle last winter that was deeper than my boot. It ruined my whole day.
And that's a minor annoyance. Slipping on black ice while exiting can lead to a serious fall because your legs are tangled up in the footwell. The advice here is really practical. Use the 3 points of contact rule.
Like climbing a ladder.
Similar concept. Use the steering wheel, the door frame, or that assist handle above the window, the oh no handle, to stabilize your weight as you transfer out. Don't just flop out of the seat. Plant your feet, check the ground, then stand.
It sounds so deliberate.
It is. It's the difference between falling out of a car and exiting a car.
We have to talk about passengers now.
Ah.
Because everything we just discussed, the Dutch reach, the scanning, the stability, it assumes a rational adult brain. But a lot of us are hauling around kids and pets, and they are chaos agents.
They are the X factors. Let's start with pets. The DoorDasher.
Oh, I live this. My dog assumes that an opening door is an invitation to sprint.
It's pure instinct. New smells, freedom. The protocol here is absolutely vital. You must have physical control of the animal before the door unlatches.
Which means leash on, hand in the loop.
Leash on, hand in the loop, and if possible, use a crate or a seatbelt harness. A loose dog in a parking lot is a tragedy waiting to happen. They're low to the ground, cars can't see them, and they're erratic. You just cannot rely on voice commands in a high-stimulation environment like that.
And then we have the human chaos agents, children.
Yeah.
The research here is pretty strict. It basically says, you are the gatekeeper.
The phrase to remember is, child locks are non-negotiable.
It feels a little controlling, doesn't it? My 7-year-old wants to open his own door. He feels big.
He might feel big, but his prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that assesses risk, is nowhere near developed. A 7-year-old cannot accurately judge the speed of an oncoming car in a parking lot. They physically can't do it.
So if they open the door themselves,
They might kick it open right into a passing Tesla, or they jump out because they see the ice cream shop, ignoring the delivery truck that's reversing 3 feet away.
so the adult controls the exit.
You get out first, you do the Dutch reach, you scan the perimeter, you verify the ground is safe, then you open the rear door and guide them out. You are the airlock.
There was one other specific warning about kids that gave me chills. It said, never leave children alone in the vehicle where they could play with controls.
This happens more often than people think. You run into the gas station for 2 minutes, you leave the kids in the car with the engine off, maybe the keys are in your pocket. Safe, right?
Except kids get bored.
They get bored, they climb into the front seat, they pretend to drive. A child can easily disengage a parking brake. They can shift a car into neutral if the interlock isn't engaged.
And the car starts rolling.
And the car rolls. Or they play with the power windows. There are horror stories of kids getting fingers or even their necks caught in windows because they were leaning on the switch.
So the cabin is not a playpen.
You know, if you leave the car, they leave the car, or you have another adult there. But leaving a child alone in a cockpit full of levers and buttons is a risk you just shouldn't take.
It seems like the theme of this whole deep dive is just mindfulness. We treat the car like a sofa, we sit in it, we relax. But it's a piece of heavy machinery operating in a public space.
That's the shift. We need to stop thinking of parking as the end of the task. The task isn't over until everyone is safely standing on the sidewalk and the car is locked.
It reminds me of aviation. Pilots don't just land and walk away, they have a shutdown checklist.
Exactly, and we need a shutdown checklist for our daily drive.
So let's recap the protocol. It starts with the Dutch reach.
Reach with the far hand. Force the twist. Look for the cyclist. That is the single most effective thing you can do to prevent a collision while exiting.
Then the internal scan.
Clear the loose items so they don't fly out. Hide the valuables so you aren't a target. Put up the sun shield to keep your future self sane.
Then the external scan.
Check the transition zone. Look for bad actors. Look for bad terrain. Use the handle to stabilize yourself.
And finally, control the cargo.
Leash the dog before the door opens. Keep the child locks on. You are the gatekeeper for your vulnerable passengers.
That sounds like a lot when we list it out, but realistically, this takes what, 10 seconds?
Yeah, maybe 15. But it saves you from a lifetime of regret. It turns a mindless habit into a mindful practice.
And that brings me to the thought I want to leave everyone with today.
Hmm.
We talked about the Netherlands earlier. The Dutch reach isn't a law there. It's just what people do. It's a cultural norm.
It's polite and it's safe.
We have the ability to change our norms. You, listening right now, you can decide that from today on, you are a far hand opener. You can decide that you never open a door without a perimeter scan.
It feels weird for a week, and then it just feels essential.
So here's the challenge. Next time you park, don't just pull the handle. Pause. Do the reach. Check the list. Be the smartest person in the parking lot.
And watch out for those puddles.
Always watch out for the puddles. Thanks for diving deep with us. Drive safe and climb out safer. We see you on the next one.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.